It was a cold evening, the sky was gray, and the wind was sharp. Sarah gripped the steering wheel tightly as her car slowed to a stop. The back tire had burst without warning, and now she was stranded on a lonely country road. Trees surrounded both sides of the narrow path, and there were no houses in sight. She stepped out, her boots crunching on gravel. The air smelled like wet leaves. She looked at the flat tire and sighed. Her phone had no signal. She tried waving at a few passing cars, but none stopped. Some drivers didn't even look at her. It was getting dark quickly, and her jacket was thin. She started to panic. Why tonight? She whispered to herself. Her hands trembled, not just from the cold, but from fear. She was alone. No one knew she had taken the back road. She just wanted to get home faster after work. Now, it felt like a mistake. After nearly 30 minutes of waiting, a pickup truck slowed down beside her. The headlights were dim, and the engine was old. A man stepped out. He looked around 40 tall, with short brown hair and a calm face. He wore a dark jacket and gloves. Flat tire, he asked. Sarah hesitated. Yeah, I tried calling someone, but there's no signal. He nodded. I can help, if you don't mind. She stepped back slowly. I don't have any money. He gave a small smile. I'm not asking for money, just trying to help. Something in his voice made her feel safer. It wasn't pushy or strange. It was quiet, gentle. Okay, she said softly. He walked to the trunk and asked if she had a spare. She nodded and opened it. He got to work without another word. His movements were careful and quick. He didn't ask personal questions, didn't even ask her name. Sarah stood nearby, arms crossed, still cold, but feeling less afraid. What's your name? She finally asked. Jack, he replied. Thanks, Jack. I'm Sarah. He gave her a short nod but didn't stop working. Within minutes, the tire was replaced. All done, he said, wiping his hands on a rag. Thank you so much, she said. Really? You saved me. Jack nodded again. Stay safe on these roads. Not everyone stops. She reached into her bag for cash. Please, take something. He shook his head. No need. Just be careful. With that, he walked back to his truck. Before he drove off, he rolled down the window and added, if anything ever feels wrong, trust your gut. It's usually right. Sarah watched his truck disappear into the trees. The moment felt strange but not bad. Just unusual. Like something important had just happened, but she didn't know what. She drove home, tired but thankful. That night, she told her sister about the man on the road. Her sister joked, maybe he was an angel, and laughed. Sarah smiled but didn't reply. She went to bed thinking about Jack's face. Serious. Like he had seen too much but didn't speak about it. The next morning started. Normal, coffee, shower, work. But when she returned home that evening, something made her stop. There was a black SUV parked across the street from her house. It had tinted windows. The engine was off. No one got out. She waited in her car, watching. Minutes passed, still no movement. Her heart started to beat faster. She tried to shake it off. Maybe it was just a neighbor's guest. Maybe someone was lost. She walked inside, locked the door behind her, and peeked through the curtain. The SUV was still there. 5 more minutes passed, then the SUV slowly backed out and drove away without ever turning on its headlights. Sarah's stomach turned. That wasn't normal. It wasn't right. That night she had trouble sleeping. Every small sound made her jump. She checked the locks 3 times. Her cat sat at the window, growling low at something outside. The next morning, she found her mailbox open. Nothing was inside, not even the flyers that usually cluttered it. A chill went through her. She asked her neighbor if they saw anyone around. They shrugged. Didn't notice anything strange. But Sarah knew something was wrong. She sat down at her kitchen table and thought about Jack. He had appeared out of nowhere, helped her, said strange things, then vanished. And now, this. She remembered something and walked to her car. She checked the glove box, the cup holders, and there, sitting neatly in the center console, was a small card. She didn't remember putting it there. She picked it up. It was blank on one side. On the back, a phone number was written in blue ink. No name, just a number. Sarah's hands shook. Slightly, she stared at the card, wondering if it belonged to Jack, wondering if he had left it without her knowing. Her phone buzzed suddenly. Unknown number, no caller ID. She froze. Should she answer? She'll let it ring. And eventually, it stopped. A message popped up. They're watching. Be careful. Her heart dropped. She dropped the phone and stepped back. What had she stepped into? Who were they? And why had Jack, someone who seemed like a stranger, warned her the night he helped? Everything inside her told her this wasn't over. That black SUV wasn't lost. It was watching her, and maybe would return. The next morning, Sarah woke up early. Her eyes were heavy from lack of sleep, and her thoughts were filled with the message, they're watching. Be careful. She stared at her phone for a long time, wondering if she should call the number on the card. Part of her said yes. The other part told her to stay away. But something deep inside pushed her. She needed to know what was happening. She saved the number without a name and hid the card under her bed. Then she got dressed and walked outside. The black SUV wasn't there. Still, she looked up and down the street, her heart beating faster than usual. Everything looked normal, but something in the air felt off. At work, she couldn't focus. Every time someone looked at her too long, she got nervous. Every phone call made her jump. During lunch, she called her sister. Do you think someone could be following me? She asked. Sarah, you're probably just shaken up. It was a scary night, that's all. But the message. And the SUV. It's probably a prank or someone playing around. Maybe Jack's card was just in your car by mistake. Sarah wanted to believe that, but it didn't feel right. After work, she decided to go back to the road where Jack helped her. Maybe she could find something. Maybe someone had seen him. It was almost sunset when she reached the quiet spot. The road was empty again. She looked around carefully. Then she walked to a gas station nearby. An old man behind the counter looked up and smiled. Can I help you? Yes, actually. A few days ago, I had a flat tire near here. A man named Jack helped me. Tall, brown hair, quiet, do you know him? The man's smile faded. He leaned forward. Jack, you mean Jack Miller? Maybe I don't know his last name. Yeah, I remember him. He used to stop here for gas. Real quiet guy. Always paid cash. Haven't seen him in, maybe 2 years. Sarah's eyes widened. But he helped me 3 days ago. The man's eyebrows went up. Then he came back. Strange. Everyone thought he disappeared. He worked over at the garage a few miles up. Thank you, Sarah said quickly. She rushed to the car and drove to the mechanic shop the man mentioned. It was old, with rusted signs and broken lights. A young woman stood near the entrance. Hi, Sarah said. I'm looking for someone who used to work here. Jack Miller. The woman's face turned serious. Jack? Yeah, he worked here for a while. Then one day he just left. No goodbye. Nothing. The owner tried to call him, but his number was dead. Did he ever say why he left? No, but a few days before he disappeared, some men in black suits came looking for him. Said they were old friends. Jack didn't seem happy to see them. After that, he changed. Quiet, nervous. Then he was gone. Sarah's heart pounded. Do you know where he lived? The woman hesitated. I think he stayed in a cabin, outside of town, alone. I never went there, but some of the guys said it was in the woods behind Miller Lake. Sarah nodded. Thank you. This really helps. As she walked back to her car, she felt like someone was watching her. She turned around quickly. A black SUV was parked 2 blocks away. This time, she saw a figure inside, a man in sunglasses. She quickly got in her car and drove off, her hands shaking on the steering wheel. She didn't go home. Instead, she drove toward Miller Lake. She followed the signs through the forest roads until she reached a quiet trail. She parked and walked. Birds chirped above her, and leaves crunched under her boots. The air smelled of pine and old rain. After 30 minutes of walking, she saw it. A small wooden cabin, hidden behind tall trees. The windows were shut, and the door was slightly open. She walked slowly, careful with every step. Jack, she called out softly. No answer. She stepped inside. The place was dusty, filled with old papers and boxes. A small table in the corner had a notebook with Jack's name on it. She opened it. Pages were filled with strange codes, maps, and names she didn't recognize. Then she saw something that made her breath stop. Her name written at the top. Of one page under it were notes. She doesn't know who her father really was. She's in danger if they find out I talked to her. Sarah stared at the words. What does this mean? She whispered. She searched more and found a small flash drive under a loose floorboard. She took it and left quickly. The forest felt darker now. She drove straight to a friend's house. His name was Mark, and he worked with computers. Can you check what's on this? She asked. Sure, he said. He plugged it into his laptop. Files popped up, videos, voice recordings, documents. One folder was named Project Echo. He clicked on a file. A video began to play. It showed Jack sitting in a dark room, talking into the camera. If you're watching this, it means I'm either gone or in hiding. They're coming for anyone connected to me. Sarah sat quietly on the edge of the couch, staring at the dark screen of Mark's laptop. Her hands were cold, and her mind felt heavy. The video of Jack played over and over in her head. They're coming for anyone connected to me, especially Sarah. The words echoed like a warning bell. Mark was still looking through the files. He didn't say much. He could tell she needed time to process. After a few minutes, she finally asked, Can you find out where this video was recorded? Mark nodded. I'll try. But this drive, it's encrypted. Whoever made it didn't want just anyone to open it. It might take a day or two. Please, she said. It's urgent. Are you sure you're safe right now? He asked. They already followed me once today, she replied. Black SUV. Same one from my house. I think they know I'm looking into Jack. Mark leaned forward. Then you can't go back home. Stay here tonight. Sarah hesitated, but she knew he was right. She sent a message to her sister, telling her she'd be away for a few days. She didn't explain why. That night, sleep didn't come easy. Every creak in the house, every passing car, made her heart race. In her dreams, she saw Jack running, hiding, looking back at her with fear in his eyes. The next morning, Mark handed her a paper. Look at this, he said. On the paper was a map. I traced the video's audio. There's background noise, Bert, a river, wind chimes. It matches a place called North Ridge. It's 2 hours from here, in the hills. You think Jack might be there? Maybe. Or at least he was there recently. Sarah grabbed her jacket. I'm going. Wait, Mark said. You can't just go alone. I have to. If I wait, they'll find him before I do. Mark didn't argue. He handed her a small device. It's a tracker. If something happens, I'll know where to find you. She left before noon, driving straight toward Northridge. The roads became quiet as she entered the hills. Trees lined the sides, and the sky was cloudy. As she got closer to the location, a strange feeling crept into her chest, like she was being pulled toward something important. She followed the map until it ended at a small dirt road. She parked the car and walked. The woods were thick. Her shoes crunched leaves. Birds scattered above her. Then she saw a small cabin hidden behind a wall of trees. The roof was old, the windows dirty, but smoke rose from the chimney. Someone was inside. She stepped closer, heart pounding. She raised her hand and knocked. A few seconds passed. Then the door opened slowly. Jack stood there. His face was tired, his clothes rough, but it was him. For a moment, neither of them said a word. Then he stepped aside. Come in, he said. She walked inside. The cabin was dim but warm. A fire burned in the corner. Papers covered the table, maps, photos, names. Sarah turned to him. Why me? Why is this happening? Jack sighed and sat down. Because your father tried to stop something powerful. And now, they're afraid you might try to But I don't know anything, she said. I didn't even know he was involved in anything dangerous. Jack nodded. He kept it hidden to protect you. He worked with Usten agents trying to expose Project Echo, a secret program that tracked and controlled certain people using illegal tech. Your father found the proof, but before he could reveal it, he died. They said it was a car accident. She whispered. Jack looked at her. It wasn't. He was silenced, and the rest of us were warned. I went into hiding. Sarah covered her mouth. Her eyes filled with tears. He died protecting the truth. Yes, Jack said. And now that I helped you, they think you're part of it too. But I'm not, she said. I'm just normal. They don't care, Jack replied. To them, anyone connected is a risk. Sarah stood up and walked around the cabin. She saw photos of people. Some faces were crossed out. These are the others, she asked. Yes? Some are gone. Some are still hiding. And you're going to fight them? No, Jack said. Not fight, expose. That's why I gave you the drive. You have a clean name. If you go public, people will listen. But what if they come for me? Jack looked at her with tired eyes. They already have. Sarah sat down again. She didn't speak for a while. Then she said, Okay, I'll do it, but not alone. Jack gave her a small smile. I never wanted you involved. Sarah, I'm sorry. You saved me, she said. Now I'll help save you. Suddenly, a sharp sound cut through the air. Jack stood up quickly. He moved to the window and looked out. A black SUV was parked near the tree line. 2 men were stepping out. They found me, Jack said. We need to go now. He grabbed a backpack and handed her a coat. Back door? He whispered. They ran through the woods, branches whipping against their faces. They didn't stop until they reached a small shed behind a rock wall. Jack opened a trapdoor. This leads to an old tunnel. It's narrow, but safe. They climbed down. The air was cold, and the tunnel was dark. Sarah's hands shook as they walked through it. Behind them, they heard voices shouting. Lights flashed in the trees. Keep moving, Jack whispered. We're almost out. After what felt like hours, they reached the end. They climbed out behind an abandoned barn. Jack looked around. We're safe for now. Sarah looked back toward the woods. Her heart was racing, but her fear was gone. It had been replaced by something stronger: determination. She turned to Jack. Let's finish what my father started. They left the old barn before sunrise. The sky was still dark, and fog hung low over the hills. Jack drove an old Jeep he had hidden nearby. Sarah sat in the passenger seat, holding her father's photo in one hand and the flash drive in the other. The truth felt heavier than ever, but her fear was gone. She had made her choice. They drove 4 hours, avoiding highways and large towns. Jack knew the roads well. He took turns sharply and checked the mirrors every few minutes. Sarah kept her eyes open for any black SUVs. Every time a dark car appeared, her heart jumped, but none followed them for long. By noon, they reached a small cabin deep in the forest. It belonged to one of Jack's old friends, a man named Ray. He was in his 60s, quiet and thin, with a sharp look in his eyes. Jack explained everything. Ray didn't ask many questions. He simply nodded and said, You can stay here for a while. Inside, the cabin was quiet and safe. Sarah set the flash drive on the table and looked at Jack. We need to show people. All of this: my dad's death, the project, everything. Jack agreed. But not yet. If we release the files now, they'll say it's fake. We need proof. Real, clear proof. And we need to protect ourselves. Sarah looked at him. Jack opened his bag and pulled out old folders, photos, and a small black notebook. This is what I've been collecting for the last few years. Locations, names, patterns. There's one place where they store the original Echo files. If we can get inside and copy the server data, no one will be able to deny it. Sarah nodded slowly. Where is it? Jack hesitated. Just outside the city, it looks like a private security building, but the inside is different. High-level clearance, cameras, guards, getting in won't be easy. So we need help? She asked. Jack nodded. Exactly. That night, Jack contacted 2 old teammates. One was Alina, a tech expert who had helped leak secret documents in the past. The other was Marcus, a former agent who owed Jack his life. They agreed to meet in 2 days at an old motel. Sarah felt nervous, but she trusted Jack now. He had risked everything for her. She wasn't going to run away. The next day, while Jack slept, Sarah stepped outside to clear her head. The air was cool, and the forest was quiet. She walked to a small creek and sat on a rock. Her mind kept going back to her father. She remembered how he used to sing to her before bedtime, how he smiled when he made pancakes, how he hugged her tightly before leaving on work trips. She never thought he was anything more than a businessman. Now she knew he was a fighter, a hero. She wiped her eyes and whispered, "I'm going to finish what you started, Dad." Behind her, someone stepped on a branch. She turned quickly. A man stood a few feet away, dressed in black. Before she could scream, he raised his hands. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said. "Then why are you following me?" she asked. "I came to warn you. They know you're with Jack. They know you have the drive. Who are you?" "I was part of Echo, not by choice. I left when I saw what they were doing. My name is Thomas." Sarah didn't know if she could trust him. She stayed quiet. "You don't have much time," he said. "They've set up traps in the city. They want to catch Jack alive. They don't care about." "Why are you helping me?" she asked. "Because I saw your father die," Thomas said. "He saved me once. Now I'm repaying the debt." Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "Then help us get in. Help us take them down." Thomas looked away for a moment, then nodded. "I'll be at the motel, room 12. 2 nights from now." He turned and disappeared into the trees. Sarah ran back to the cabin and told Jack everything. Jack listened carefully, then said, "I knew someone was watching, but if he's telling the truth, he might be the key we need." 2 days later, they met at the motel. Alina and Marcus were already there. Alina was tall, sharp, and carried 2 laptops. Marcus looked tired but strong. When Thomas arrived, the group sat in a circle and made a plan. "We enter through the back service gate," Thomas explained. "I still have a badge that might work. Alina can loop the camera feeds. Marcus and Jack handle the extraction. Sarah stays in the van with me." "No," Sarah said. "I'm going in." Jack shook his head. "It's too dangerous. I've come this far. I deserve to see it through." Jack hesitated, then nodded. "Okay." The van raced down the empty highway, headlights off, engine roaring through the night. Sarah sat in the back seat, holding the flash drive tightly against her chest. Her heart still pounded from the escape, and her hands wouldn't stop shaking. Jack sat beside her, breathing hard, checking behind them for any signs of the black SUV. No one spoke for a few minutes. They were all trying to catch their breath and understand what had just happened. Alina finally broke the silence. "We have the files? Everything's on the drive. The whole project. Names, records, videos. We just need to upload it." "Where?" Jack asked. "Anywhere online. They'll shut it down within minutes," Marcus added. Alina opened her laptop. "Not if we spread it fast enough. I can send it to 10 trusted sources at once. Journalists, lawyers, whistleblower websites. But I need time. And a safe connection." "Then we need to get somewhere safe," Jack said. Thomas turned from the driver's seat. "I know a place. Old Ranger. Station in the woods. No cameras, no neighbors. We can stay hidden until the upload is done." Sarah nodded. "Let's go." The station was deep in the forest, past broken fences and forgotten roads. The building was small, dusty, and cold, but it had power and just enough internet to work. As soon as they arrived, Alina set up her equipment. "It'll take 2 hours to prepare everything," she said. "I'll make sure the files are encrypted and impossible to remove once they're out." Sarah sat by the window, watching the dark trees. Her mind kept going back to her father. She remembered his quiet voice, the way he used to read to her at night. And the last time she saw him before he left for the trip, he never returned from Geneva. Thought he died for something so big. Jack sat beside her. "You okay?" "No," she said honestly, "but I'm not scared anymore. You're stronger than you think. Do you think this will work? Will the world believe us?" Jack looked out the window. "They'll believe the truth when it's right in front of them." A little later, Marcus brought food, cans and old bread, but no one complained. They ate quietly. Everyone looked tired but focused. At midnight, Alina called them over. "It's ready. 1 button, and it all goes out." Sarah looked at the screen. Her hands hovered over the keyboard. "Let me do it," she said. Alina stepped aside. Sarah pressed the key. The screen blinked once. "It's done," Alina whispered. "It's live," and backed up everywhere. For a moment, no one moved. Then Sarah smiled. A soft, relieved smile. The truth was free. But their peace didn't last long. An hour later, a drone flew over the cabin. It buzzed loudly before disappearing into the trees. Jack stood up fast. "They found us." Alina closed the laptop. "We have to go now." Marcus grabbed the gear, and Thomas checked the windows. 2 vehicles coming from the north, he said. SUVs. There's a back path, Jack said. Through the trees. Leads to an old mine tunnel. We can hide there. They didn't waste time. Sarah held the laptop as they ran into the woods. The cold air hit their faces, and the crunch of leaves underfoot felt too loud. The lights of the black SUVs glowed behind them. Voices shouted in the distance. Split up, Marcus whispered. Meet at the mine. Sarah and Jack stayed together. They ran through thick brush, branches hitting their arms and faces. Her lungs burned, but she didn't stop. Jack led the way, turning left and right through the darkness. Behind them, they heard footsteps and radios crackling. There, someone shouted. A flashlight beam crossed their path. They dropped to the ground, holding their breath. The light passed. Jack whispered, Go. They reached the mine entrance, an old wooden frame built into a rocky hill. Jack pushed open the broken door, and they stepped into the darkness. Inside, it was damp and cold. They followed the narrow path deep underground. Sarah's flashlight lit the way. Water dripped from the ceiling. Do you think they'll find us? She asked. Not right now. This place isn't on any map. Deeper inside, they found a small side room with a bench and broken tools. They sat down, breathing heavily. Jack looked at her. You did it. Your father would be proud. It's not over, she said. They're still out there. Jack nodded. But now the world knows. They can't hide anymore. Minutes passed. Then footsteps echoed through the tunnel. Jack raised his hand. Quiet. A shadow appeared. It was Marcus. He was alone but smiling. The others are safe. We lost them. He sat beside them, and the news is spreading. It's everywhere. Echo is trending. People are asking questions. Some agents are even turning on their bosses. It's working. Sarah leaned back against the wall. Relief flooded her chest. They had done it. They had exposed the truth. But deep down, she knew this wasn't the end. It was just the beginning of something new. She looked at Jack and Marcus. What do we do now? Jack smiled softly. We rebuild. We protect others. And we make sure no one buries the truth again. Sarah nodded. She had started as a normal girl on a lonely road. Now she was something more. A fighter. A voice for those who had been silenced. And as she closed her eyes in the quiet of the tunnel, she whispered, Thank you, Dad. I understand now. Somewhere far above, the first light of morning touched the trees. A new day had begun. The next morning came quietly. Sarah, Jack, and Marcus stepped out of the tunnel into the cold light of dawn. The air was crisp, and the birds had just started singing. They walked through the woods in silence, their clothes dirty and their bodies tired. But despite the exhaustion, there was a sense of victory in the air. They had made it. The truth was out. When they reached a safe road, Alina and Thomas were already waiting in a car. Alina smiled when she saw them. You made it. Sarah nodded, her eyes scanning the trees behind her. For now, they drove 4 hours, heading toward a small cabin in the mountains where Marcus had contacts. On the way, they listened to the radio. News stations were buzzing. The leaked files had gone viral. Journalists were reporting on the program named Project Echo. High-ranking officials were denying everything, but people were demanding answers. It's spreading fast, Alina said. Too fast for them to stop now. Sarah leaned back in her seat and closed her eyes. For a moment, she felt peace. But only for a moment. Later that evening, they reached the cabin. It was older, built with stone and wood, but safe and far from the nearest town. Inside, there was a fireplace, food, and working electricity. They ate dinner in silence. Everyone was too tired to talk, but Sarah kept looking at Thomas. Something about him had changed. He seemed nervous, uncomfortable. When he noticed her watching, he smiled, but the smile didn't feel real. That night, Sarah couldn't sleep. Her mind was restless. She got up quietly and walked into the hallway. From the corner of her eye, she saw a light coming from one of the back rooms. The door was cracked open. She stepped closer and peeked inside. Thomas was on a satellite phone. His voice was low. Yes, they're all here. The girl has the backup drive. No, they don't. No. I'll handle it tomorrow. Sarah froze. Her blood turned cold. He was working for them. She backed away slowly. Trying not to make a sound, she returned to her room, closed the door, and sat on the floor. Her hands shook. She wanted to scream. Thomas had betrayed them. He had been a spy the whole time. She had to warn Jack. She waited until morning. As soon as she heard Jack in the kitchen, she pulled him aside. We have a problem, she whispered. She told him everything. Jack's face went pale. We trusted him. He's planning something, Sarah said. He said he'd handle it today. Jack nodded. We'll act first, but carefully. At breakfast, Thomas acted normal. He laughed and talked like nothing was wrong. But Sarah could see through it now. Jack made a plan. He told Marcus and Alina quietly. We'll leave in separate groups. Tell Thomas we're splitting up to stay safe. Where do we meet? Alina asked. Old train station near River Bend. Midnight, they agreed. Sarah stayed calm all day, pretending everything was fine. But her heart was racing every time Thomas walked near her. That afternoon, Jack told the group it was time to move. Sarah and I will go first, he said. Then Alina and Marcus. Thomas will come last with supplies. Thomas nodded. Sounds smart. Sarah got in the car with Jack. As they drove away, she looked back. Thomas stood outside the cabin, watching them with a blank expression. She turned to Jack. He's going to alert them. We need to get to the station fast. They reached the train station before dark. It was old, falling apart, and surrounded by weeds. Inside, they found a locked office and broke in. It was dusty but hidden. We wait here, Jack said. If he follows us, we'll know. Hours passed. Alina and Marcus arrived just before midnight. They had taken a longer route, and no one had followed them, but Thomas didn't show up. Jack checked his watch. He's either on his way, or he already told them where we are. Suddenly, headlights lit up the broken windows. 3 black SUVs pulled into the parking lot. He told them, Sarah whispered. Jack locked the door. Get down. Men in suits jumped out of the vehicles. They surrounded the station. A voice shouted, come out now, and no one gets hurt. Jack looked at Alina. Upload the second backup. Right now. She opened her laptop and began working. The others pushed furniture against the door. Gunshots cracked the air. The door shook under pressure. Sarah grabbed the drive from her pocket. We have to make sure this gets out no matter what. Alina nodded. 10 more minutes. Smoke grenades came through the windows. Everyone coughed and covered their faces. The room filled with white fog. The courtroom was silent as Sarah stepped onto the witness stand. Cameras clicked from the back as reporters scribbled notes. The room was full lawyers, government officials, and ordinary people who had followed the Project Echo story since the files were leaked. Jack sat in the front row beside Alina and Marcus. He gave Sarah a small nod, trying to give her courage. She took a deep breath and looked at the judge. Her hands were sweating, but her voice was steady. Please state your name, the lawyer said. Sarah Bennett, she replied, and your connection to the case. I'm the daughter of Richard Bennett, one of the original whistleblowers who tried to expose Project Echo before his death. The lawyer stepped closer. Why did you decide to come forward? Sarah looked around the room. Because my father died trying to protect people from a secret program that violated their freedom and privacy. I didn't even know the truth about him until I met Jack. When I realized what he died for, I knew I had to finish what he started. The crowd listened carefully. She told them about the night her tire went flat, how Jack helped her, the message she found on the windshield, the black SUV, the drive with encrypted files, and the secret cabin where Jack had been hiding. She explained everything: Thomas's betrayal, the escape through the tunnel, and the old train station surrounded by agents. The room was still as she spoke. Even the judge leaned forward. The defense lawyer finally stood. Miss Bennett, how can we be sure these files are real? Isn't it possible they were faked to make the government look guilty? Sarah reached into her bag and held up the second backup drive. This contains original security footage, voice memos, and written reports from high-ranking Echo operatives. It's already been verified by several cybersecurity experts. The truth is no longer hidden. The judge nodded. We've received those files, and they are under review by independent agencies. When Sarah stepped down, the room clapped softly, despite the judge's warning to stay quiet. Outside the courthouse, reporters surrounded her. One asked, Sarah, what do you want people to learn from this? She looked at the cameras and said, I want people to know that even ordinary people can stand up against the wrong. If we stay silent, the truth stays buried. But if we speak up, real change can happen. That night, her face appeared on every major news channel. The headlines read, Whistleblower's daughter brings down secret government program, and truth beats. Power Project Echo crumbles. But not everyone was celebrating. In dark corners of power, some men were not pleased. One man in particular, wearing a gray suit, watched Sarah's interview in silence. His face was cold, his eyes sharp. He picked up his phone and made a call. She's done too much damage, he said. We need to end this quietly. The next day, Sarah received a letter with no return address. Inside was a photo of her sister, walking home from work. A note was written in red ink. Stay quiet, or she disappears. Sarah's hands trembled. She ran to Jack, who was speaking to another journalist. They're threatening my family, she whispered. Jack took the note and read it. His face turned hard. We'll protect her. I'll call Alina. She knows how to keep people off the grid. That night, Sarah's sister was moved to a safe house. Agents were posted nearby, but Sarah couldn't sleep. The fear had returned. She had won a battle, but the war wasn't over. A week later, the courtroom was filled again. This time, Jack was called to the stand. He spoke clearly, naming people involved, showing receipts, secret memos, and old reports. The judge listened closely. The defense tried to attack his character, bringing up his years in hiding, but Jack stayed calm. I hid because I had no choice, he said. I was being hunted by the very people I once worked for. Alina also testified. She explained how the files had been traced and verified. She showed proof of edited government records and hidden financial transfers. The evidence was impossible to ignore. But then something unexpected happened. A new witness asked to speak. It was Thomas. He had been arrested after the betrayal. Sarah didn't want to see him, but the judge allowed it. Thomas stood in front of the room, hands cuffed. His face was pale. I betrayed them, he said. I was promised safety, money, a new identity. I took it because I was scared, but they never planned to let me live. I want to fix what I broke. He named names, powerful ones. He gave codes, locations of hidden files, and even the name of the man who had sent the threat to Sarah. His name is Warren Cole, Thomas said. He ran Project Echo from the inside. He's still free. The courtroom burst into whispers. Sarah froze. That was the man from the news. The one in the gray suit? The judge ordered his arrest immediately. A warrant was sent out, but Cole was gone. Disappeared. Sarah knew he wouldn't go quietly. The trial lasted another 2 weeks. In the end, 10 high-level officials were arrested. Dozens of operatives were exposed. Project Echo was officially shut down. The files were made public forever. New laws were introduced to prevent anything like it from happening again. But Sarah never let her guard down. Even after the case closed, she kept looking over her shoulder. She knew people like Warren Cole didn't just vanish. They waited, planned. She and Jack started working with a group that helped whistleblowers. They traveled, gave speeches, and trained others to fight injustice. Sarah found purpose in the pain. She never forgot what her father stood for. And every time she looked at the photo of him on her desk, she smiled. We did it, she would whisper. But deep inside, she also knew this wasn't the end. Not yet. 6 months had passed since the courtroom victory, but peace had not fully returned to Sarah's life. The world now knew about Project Echo, and many of those responsible were behind bars. But Warren Cole, the man who ran everything from the shadows, was still missing every night. Sarah checked the news, hoping for a lead, but he had vanished like smoke. Jack believed he had escaped the country. But Sarah felt he was still close. Hiding, waiting to strike again. One morning, she received an encrypted message on her private line. It was short and chilling. Still want the truth? Meet me alone tonight. 9 p.m., Franklin Pier. Old library, come alone, or your sister disappears again. The fear returned, cold and sharp. She didn't show Jack the message at first. She didn't want to risk more lives, but deep down she knew this meeting was her only chance to end it. She couldn't run forever that afternoon. She prepared carefully. She wore a hidden mic, linked to Jack's laptop. She placed a tracker in her shoe, and wrote a message explaining everything in case something went wrong. Just before she left, she handed Jack the note. He read it, and his face turned pale. Sarah looked him in the eyes and said, "This has to end tonight." Jack grabbed her hand. "If anything happens, I'll be there, but be careful." Sarah nodded and left the house as the sun sank below the horizon. The city turned gray and cold. The old library stood at the edge of downtown, abandoned and broken. Its windows were boarded up and vines crawled along the walls. Sarah stepped inside. The air was thick with dust. Her footsteps echoed. She moved slowly, flashlight in hand. The silence felt heavy. Then she heard a voice, cold and calm. "So you came." It was Warren Cole. He stepped from the shadows wearing a dark coat and gloves. His eyes were sharp and full of calculation. "I knew you'd show up," he said. "People like you can't let go." Sarah stood firm. "I didn't come for answers, I came for justice." Warren smiled. "You think exposing Echo was the end, but you have no idea how deep it went. That was just one part of the plan." She raised her voice. "Then tell the world, explain it all." He laughed softly. "I didn't bring you here to talk. I brought you here to finish what your father started. Your father was smart, but he was weak. He thought leaking the files would stop us. It didn't. Now you've caused more damage than he ever did, and that's why you have to disappear." Sarah clenched her fists. "You killed him." Warren stepped closer. He resisted. "We gave him a choice. Stay quiet or vanish. He chose wrong." Sarah reached into her coat, pretending to wipe her tears, but touched the mic. Jack would be hearing everything. Warren didn't notice. He kept speaking. "We already have plans for the next phase. Echo is just the beginning. We'll rebuild stronger, quieter. No one will ever see it coming." Sarah's voice was steady. "Not if I stop you." Warren laughed again. "How you're alone, no one will believe you anymore. The world moved on just like they always do." Sarah stepped back slightly, then said, "You're wrong. They're listening right now, and the police are on their way." Warren's smile vanished. What Sarah pointed to her shoe, GPS tracker. Warren's face twisted in rage. He rushed toward her, but she pulled a small can of spray from her pocket and blasted it into his face. He screamed and stumbled back as red and blue lights flashed outside. Moments later, the door burst open. FBI agents stormed in, guns raised. Warren tried to run, but Jack tackled him to the ground. Alina followed, holding the receiver. "We got everything, every word." Sarah stood still, breathing, hard tears in her eyes. It was finally over. Warren was arrested, charged with conspiracy, murder, and human rights violations. His arrest made headlines across the world. The last piece of the puzzle had fallen. Months passed. Sarah's life began to settle. She no longer looked over her shoulder. The fear was gone, replaced by something stronger: purpose. She gave talks in schools, met with lawmakers, and helped create a program that protected